Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to Lost. My name is Kirioth and today I've got something a little bit different for you. Now, as you'll know from looking at the channel, we like Warhammer 40k around here at Unit Lost. Stylosa and I, big fans of the 40k franchise. You'll be able to see Face Off Fridays where we play Dawn of War 2 against each other. You can see, I think we did one with Dawn of War 1 as well. We've been playing Space Marine Exterminatus. We'd like to bring you something from that because that is a really fun game mode. Who doesn't like smashing orcs to shit with a giant thunderhammer? And of course we covered Warhammer 40k Armageddon. We like our 40k. And because we like our 40k, and because Games Workshop partially don't seem to want to release any more decent games for 40k, that's not true. Well no, that part is, but that's not the real reason for us starting Warhammer 40k Armies. Really, we just wanted to experience the tabletop. I used to play it years and years ago. I don't know what edition it was when I started. I think maybe 3. The edition before Necrons turned up. That's when I started playing Warhammer 40k. Whilst I played, I had an Iron Warriors army, a Necron army, an Orc army, and a Space Wolves 13th Company army. The rules for which I don't think even apply anymore, which is kind of sad because 13th Company were badass. But as I say, we've decided to start collecting and playing Warhammer 40k tabletop. Now, Stylosa, being a disgusting, treacherous bastard, has decided to collect the filthy, disgusting Xenos freaks known as the Eldar. Which sadly means there's no hope for him, and he must be cleansed with flame. Me, being the nice loyalist chap I am, if you discount the Iron Warriors, Necrons and Orcs that I used to have, went Space Marine, as you do. I in fact never had a vanilla Space Marine army, and I thought to myself, you know what, I've never done Space Marines before, not just plain Space Marines, so I'll give it a go. I will give Space Marines a go. They're a bit different from when I used to play Warhammer 40k, they've got a lot more stuff that I don't remember. And in fact, my plan of doing a nice, simple, plain, you know, your standard single colour, maybe 2 colours if you're feeling fancy, Space Marine army, that went out of the window, as you can see here. So, I've started off as any sensible person does, and that is with a metric shed load of Terminators. So this is one Terminator squad. We have the Terminator Sergeant who's got a power axe and a storm bolter and a sweet massive shoulder guard that I took from the Centurion kit because I wanted him to look like some sort of barbarian gladiator, which in fairness I think he does. I'm really happy with that actually. I really like that model. We also have 2 chain fists, 2 power fists, a assault cannon and a missile launcher because why not? Why not? You've got to have a missile launcher in there. It looks solid. So that is one Terminator squad. But one is never enough. One is never enough. You've got to have backup. And in fact, actually, I could just make this into 2 Terminator squads if I fancied. So here's the second Terminator squad, which again has got an assault cannon, got a Terminator Sergeant with a storm bolter and power sword, and everyone else has got 2 chain fists, 2 power fists. Now you might notice that for a vanilla standard Space Marine chapter, they seem to be having an awful lot of kind of, I guess, wolf-based shenanigans going on, and in fact a bit more rust and blood and general dirt than is kind of acceptable for your standard Space Marine chapter. That's because to make these I mixed together the Wolfguard Terminator kit and the standard Space Marine Terminator kit because I tried my hardest to just convince myself to just have standard Space Marines and I couldn't do it. I think I just liked the idea of 13th Company too much, and it kind of seeped through to the point where I was like, okay, standard Space Marines, but with a slightly barbarian-esque twist, which just resulted in all of them looking like full-on mentals who don't give a shit about their armour because they're covered in rust, they're covered in basically like plague rot, and blood because screw cleaning stuff when there are people to kill. So you could say, okay Kiri, well that's 10 Terminators, that's quite a lot, that's an elite slot filled, or 2 elite slots filled if you're going to be sensible and having 2 5-man squads. It is, but for my money, 10 Terminators just isn't enough. So, this is my first squad of Assault Terminators, armed with lightning claws. Now, these guys were made mixing the Space Wolf Wolfguard kit and the Dark Angels Deathwatch kit. I realise that's sacrilege to some, but part of this Space Marine chapter is the fact that they are essentially on, I guess, a lifetime crusade to hunt down the Death Guard, and as such they've got to take equipment and respite where they can take it, and sometimes the only way to kind of re-equip yourself when you're knee deep in the Eye of Terror and stodging your way across some sort of horrible death world filled with shambling corpses, is to use the armour of your allies, because, you know, you can't really go back to the Administratum and ask for replacements when you've just lost 4 suits of Terminator armour to a greater demon. No, they're going to be like, what the hell are you doing? Stop it. So, you've got to take it where you can. So, my boys, my assault lads especially, are big fans of using whatever they can find. And I wanted the Lightning Claw guys to kind of have almost like an elite of the elite feel. So I used the Deathwatch kit because they've got those really nice robes over the Terminator armour. And of course, they've got the hooded figures. Now, I'm not a big fan of characters in Warhammer 40k going without helmets, because you've got armour that can withstand most weaponry. Why would you then just give someone like a forehead to shoot? Seems kind of daft. So I've kept that to a minimum in the army so far, but I couldn't resist having a hooded guy with a rebreather in the Lightning Claw assault squad. I think it works quite well, and of course there's a Grey Knight helmet in there as well, because I just really like those helmets. And I can see this chapter stealing equipment from the Grey Knights. Obviously dead Grey Knights, but stealing it all the same, because you've got to resupply wherever you can. Now, you probably think to yourself, okay, Kiri, that's 15 Terminators, surely that's enough Terminators. Well, no. These are my Thunderhammer and Stormshield Terminators, which, of course, obviously, this is just down to the fact that because I keep mixing kits, I end up with 2 of everything. That's actually a complete lie. I planned from the start to have about 20 Terminators in this army. I actually planned to have more, but I don't want to field an unbound force, and as it is, it's getting a bit Terminator crowded already. I can fit 10 Terminators in a squad, so I suspect what I'll be doing is having 2 massive squads of Terminators, 2 squads of 10. So these guys are my Thunderhammer and Stormshield guys. As you can see, they steadfastly refuse to stand up, and they're not finished. I did debate whether or not to put them in, but I thought, well, I've got them together, and, you know, I've done the base coats, I've done pretty much... I'm close to finishing the weapons. Again, I didn't want anything too complex. They're not out to look pretty, this chapter. They're out to murder the shit out of pretty much any Chaos Space Marine they can get their hands on. So, kind of going overboard with detailing and stuff on the shields, which are going to be sort of hacked and slashed at on a daily basis, I wasn't a big fan of that. So I wanted something that still looked, you know, nice and still kind of picked out the detail, but I didn't want it to look like they had to spend hours on end repainting the front of their shield every time they went into combat, because that's not what the chapter's about. So instead I went for a very, very sort of simple standard brass and bronze look, which was just achieved by doing a couple of coats of, I think it was Warplock, and a couple of Rune Lord, and then brass and bronze, and then just highlighting with gold and dry brushing over until I got the effect I've got there, which I'm perfectly happy with. They still need work doing, but it's just sort of second coats, highlighting and detailed, and of course painting the helmet, which is a pain in the arse because it's a kind of creamy white colour, which it is just awful with Games Workshop paint. I don't know what it is about Citadel paint. They cannot do white. Really irritating. So far we've got a squad, well, either 2 squads of 5 Terminators or 1 squad of 10 Terminators, and 5 Lightning Claw Assault Terminators and 5 Storm Shield and Thunderhammer Terminators. Again, they were mixed together, Dark Angels and Space Wolves. I quite like the impression they give, though. I do like the combination of Space Wolf and Dark Angel stuff, partially because it's a bit sort of sacrilege and it's a bit heretical because those 2 chapters really don't get on, and partly just because the style of the claws from the one really mixes well with like the robes and the kind of, I guess, over the top finery and detail of the other. It's kind of a nice mix of sort of old knight and barbarian. So 20 Terminators. Surely at this point I must go for some sort of, you know, normal armoured guy. Surely. No, not really, not as such. These are my Centurions. So I had to get these because the model is so good. I absolutely love this model. It's absolutely fantastic. They've done such a good job with it. Back when I played before, Centurions weren't even a thing. They didn't exist, literally. So when I saw these, I just thought, well, even if they're not that good, I'm still going to get them just because I like them. And absolutely no regrets. They're not very efficient. They've got a couple of wounds and they've got a decent toughness, but They're not really worth taking over like a Predator or just standard Havocs, but I just love the model. And let's face it, you're going to be playing with this stuff and looking at it all the time, so why buy something that you don't find as attractive as something else just so you can sit there and go, well, it's more efficient? I don't care about that kind of thing. This isn't like a competitive tournament army, if you couldn't tell. It's something to build up and enjoy and collect and have games with your friends with. So in terms of Centurions not being as efficient as other models, I really don't care. I think they look fantastic. Again, I've added bits to them and I've taken bits off. I used the trophy racks from a Chaos Lord on the Centurion Sergeant. I've used a top knot from an Orc on one of his chaps, and I've kind of broken down the armour on the two Centurions that, you know, that aren't the Sergeant. So one of them's missing a shoulder pad and the front armour and part of his leg armour, and he's got the chain, like the chain kilt thing from the Chaos Lord as well, and the shoulder armour's been replaced with I think it's like a human flesh thing over his shoulder, and he's got a book and sword ornament from a Grey Knight's kit, just because I really liked that particular style of stuff. And the other guy has got damaged front armour, he's missing a shoulder pad again, and he's got part of the leg armour acting as like a temporary shoulder pad on one side. Not quite as like overtly damaged as the guy without any ornamentation on his head, the guy with the book, but I kind of wanted them to, again, look a bit different, a bit unique. That's something that I really like about Warhammer 40k. You can make all of your models different. You can make them all identifiable and, you know, different to each other, and that's basically what I go for. I mean, you can tell that as well partly with the colour scheme. Now, you can tell that the colour scheme is like a really dark grey and a kind of goldy bronzy colour, but it's not uniform. Like, when you look at the models, they don't have the colouring on exactly the same place. It's not like every model is split 50-50 down the centre, grey and gold. Instead, I've done it so that basically as a piece of armour gets damaged or replaced, it's given a lick of paint, and it's whatever paint happens to be there at the time. If there's grey there, it gets painted grey. If there's gold, it gets painted gold. And it's the same thing with weapons. You know, if it's time to paint your Stormbolter and you don't have enough red paint, well, you're going to paint it with something else. This isn't a chapter that's bothered about looking like fancy and doing ceremonial parades and doing honour guard duties. Their whole purpose is to hunt down the Death Guard. They're not fussed, you know, they will paint their armour either of the colours that apply to their chapter, and that's it. You know, it's a quick job, it's done. Now, back to training, back to fighting. So those are the Centurions. Still no Tactical Marines, but don't worry, I've got a Land Raider instead. So I've got a Land Raider, again, purely because I really, really like the model. I know this is like a terrible way to build an army, because it's like, Kiri, you do realise that this is not competitive. As I've said, I don't care about that. I want the stuff that I think looks good, and stuff that I think I can do something with. So, again, I had to get myself a Land Raider, because they're like a staple of the Space Marines. You know, everyone... It's such an iconic thing for the Space Marine army that I decided I had to have one. Now, it's not a standard Land Raider, it's the Redeemer, because it's got the massive flamestorm cannons on either side. Again, I just much prefer that, you know, that model and that look. It's still got a lot of work to do, as you can tell. I need to do another coat of gold. In fact, I need to do another coat of grey, really. And of course, it's got all the detailing and all the shading and stuff to do. But that's the start of it. And again, you can see one side there. On the other side, the sponsons with the flamestorm cannons on, they're different. So the colours are swapped on the other side. And again, it's just down to, I want everything to look kind of uniform but mismatched. You know, everyone in the chapter is going to have the same colour scheme, but the details of the colour scheme are going to change from model to model. That, essentially, is all of my painted models so far. Now, I realise what you're thinking. You're thinking, Kiri, you still haven't shown any sort of troop selection or anything. I know. I am going to get there. What I'm planning to do is get 2 squads of Tactical Marines, 2 Rhinos and a drop pod. Now, I'll probably get those soon, because I've got enough there that I could have a decent battle with someone. Having that many Terminators is fine, I don't mind doing that. As soon as I finish the Storm Shield and Thunderhammer guys. They'll be ready to go. It'll be a bit unorthodox, yeah, because I'll have like 500 and something points of Terminators. But, on the other hand, that's just the way I want it to play. And it's not like they're going to be sitting there on the board at the start of the game. They'll deep strike in. That's the best thing about Terminators. They can deep strike. Now, I have got some other stuff that I need to build. I've got this lot here. So I've got a Razorback, and I've got some Stern Guard veterans. I've got 3 more Centurions because they were on sale at a local hobby shop that closed down, and I had to grab them because they were very discounted. And I just love the model enough that I thought, I can stretch some of those. Those will probably be equipped with grav cannons and grav amps, and I've got a storm talon because I could do with some sort of fast moving thing somewhere in the army, as opposed to either a flimsy transport or just dropping out of the sky, which is what everything else is going to be doing. I'll probably end up getting a couple more storm talons or maybe a squadron of land speeders to go with them. Although, really, my priority is probably going to be scout bikers because I believe they can take a teleport beacon or a homing beacon. That's going to be quite important because that is going to be dropping off this lot here. Now, I haven't bothered to set these up for decent photos because, they're nowhere near finished. In fact, they're only just put together. What we have there is my Chapter Master, who has got a Thunderhammer with a underslung chainsword, shortened chainsword, protecting his upper hand, because it just looks solid and I really like it. And all of these have been made out of a mix of Stern Guard veteran bits and Death Company bits. And I really like the way they've come out. They'll obviously look up better when they're painted, but they're going to be stuck in a drop pod and they are going to slam into the floor in front of the enemy, or preferably behind the enemy, or just generally near the enemy, and hopefully charge out and cause some real carnage. They've, the Chapter Master's got a Thunderhammer. He'll have a Storm Shield, which you can probably see on the actual painting station, but I haven't got around to undercoating it or anything yet. That's going to be attached to his backpack, kind of strapped to the side. So he will be a Chapter Master with Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, Artificer Armour. Sorry, not Storm Shield, Shield Eternal, Artificer Armour. Normally you'd stick him on a bike, but I don't feel like that fits in with the rest of the army. I don't want to just stick the Chapter Master on a bike for the ultimate cheese build, just because it's the ultimate cheese build, because I don't think that would fit. In an army where you've got a ton of Terminators and slow-moving infantry, and like heavy armour, I don't feel like a Chapter Master on bike works. So I'm not doing it. Instead he's going to arrive by drop pod, and he has there his Honour Guard, which is 3 guys with relic blades on a company champion with a power fist and a chainsword. Again, it's not the optimum selection, but I really like the way it looks, and that's all that really matters to me, to be honest with you. How it looks and whether I have fun with it. And finally, this is like a nice wide shot of where all this painting goes down, and where I sit there for hours on end taking different parts from different boxes, holding it next to the model and deciding whether or not that would work. So there you go, guys. I know this has been a bit different. It's not something you're used to seeing on the channel, but hopefully you found it interesting. I mean, this is kind of it might not be like video game related as such, but it is unit loss related because it's something that me and Sty both really enjoy doing, and something that we're trying to get into, and it's something we talk about a lot, especially over Twitter. And people have asked us before, are you actually going to show us what you're doing? Are you going to talk about it? And so yeah, we are, and hopefully you've enjoyed it, and hopefully you'd like to see a bit more of it eventually. So I'll tell you what, I'll do a very quick recap just to put everything kind of in order, so that if you've got any comments or criticisms on my terrible army build, which I know is not particularly great, I mean, feel free. I'm not guaranteeing I'll pay attention to it, because as I say, I'm not going for competitive, I'm just going for stuff I like. But, someone might give me an idea, which is always nice. So essentially, what I'm going for is Chapter Master with Thunderhammer and Shield Eternal, with Honour Guard and a company champion in a drop pod. I'm going to be having 2 squads of Terminators, 1 squad of 10 standard Terminators, 1 squad of 10 assault Terminators, 1 squad of Stern Guard veterans with Razorback. Holy crap, trying to remember all this is a right pain in the arse. 2 squads of Tactical Marines, both of them 10 men, and both of them with Rhinos. A squad of... sorry, Storm Talon, can't forget the Storm Talon. Probably a squad of Scout Bikers as well, probably. 3 Centurions with Las Cannon, and 3 Centurions with Grav Cannon and Grav Amp in the Land Raider Redeemer. And that's basically what my plan is for my army. It'll probably grow, it'll probably just continue growing over and over and over, just because I really enjoy putting them together and painting them, and that's that's a cool part of the hobby. So, as I say guys, hopefully you've enjoyed that. Leave me some feedback in the comments, let me know what you think, and if you're lucky we might be able to persuade Sty to do one on his disgusting, filthy alien freaks. I'll see you next time. Toodaloo!